Analyst Mike Lyons is here to discuss the situation in Syria. Mike, thanks so much for your time. Appreciate it.
Great, Meg.
So we want to warn our viewers first. The images are graphic. We've been looking at these for a couple days now. In terms of a response, what options are on the table?
Everything from small, which is probably what we did last time, 59, 60 cruise missiles that hit a specific airfield inside of Syria that we knew where the chemical attack was launched from, to larger, hitting multiple airstrips inside of Syria, hitting other ministries of defense, going after certain people. I think the president's being given all those options. The Pentagon's planning for all of them. But I think as time is going on, he's recognizing that this is a harder problem set than just kind of, fire-ready aim here. He's got to really think through whether he wants to make a tactical response, something quick on the ground, or he's got to think through the strategy, hopefully involving our allies.
When you compare it to last year and the U.S. launching missiles after that chemical weapons attack, does the U.S. need to do more this time?
Well, I think the president's got to be careful not to get goaded into doing something that's not in the best interest of the United States. He makes the announcement last week about troops coming out of Syria. A lot of people didn't even know we had troops inside of Syria, in the eastern part of the country, helping the Kurd fighters there. They're not anywhere near this civil war that's taking place in Damascus. So any kind of attack now that's more than what we did last time will be an escalation. And we've got to think about what that means from the other side's perspective. What will Russia think about that? What will Syria think about that? Doesn't mean we shouldn't do it, but we've got to think through what are all those consequences. So I'd advise the president not to get goaded into responding just for the sake of responding. What they did was terrible, still has to be proven, but let's really think through the strategic implications of what we do.
Mike, now there are reports that the UK and France may join forces in a strike on Syria, and Saudi Arabia's Crown Prince said he would also join in. So what would that look like?
Yeah, I mean, what that would mean is a coordinated military attack on some level, which would be great, but it would be bigger than last time, and it could escalate and create a Middle Eastern conflict that we could start something, and then we'd have to go back and finish it. So there's a lot of implications by getting all those other countries involved. We're trying to still have some diplomatic solution through the United Nations. I think that's important as well. But we also have to prove out this attack or not. There's people on the ground that obviously want to show that the attack was made, and Syria has signed the not use of chemical weapons as a country. But I think as more time is going on, that window is closing for some kind of response that's going to make any difference on the ground.
On Tuesday, Russia vetoed a U.S.-drafted UN security resolution for an investigation into chemical weapons into Syria. This is the 12th time Russia has blocked action in Syria. This is what Ambassador Nikki Haley had to say. Let's take a listen to this.
Russia could stop this senseless slaughter if it wanted, but it stands with the Assad regime and supports without any hesitation. What's the point of trying to shame such people? After all, no civilized government would have anything to do with Assad's murderous regime. Pictures of dead children mean little to governments like Russia, who expend their own resources to prop up Assad.
Moscow has warned the U.S. not to engage, not to get involved in Syria. What happens now? Do you expect the U.S. to do something ahead of that response?
Yeah, we're looking for that kind of Cuban Missile Crisis moment where we can show the world some kind of proof that Russia is that involved and it's happening. But they're going to deny it. And based on the chemical attack that it was, if it was chlorine gas, it's still not proven whether it was sarin gas or not. And again, as time has gone by, that gas is very non-residual, doesn't stay around. It's going to be hard to prove that it was even there at all. Obviously, the pictures that we saw were horrific. But again, Russia, it's not in their interest to do anything but to hold their ground and to continue to support Assad and support the Assad government. But again, this ship sailed long ago in 2011 when we allowed Russia this responsibility to take control of the chemical weapons inside of Syria. So again, there's not much we can do here. Our hands are very limited, our time.
So an international chemical watchdog group, they are on their way to Syria to investigate. First of all, why did Syria agree to let them in? And second, do you think the U.S. could respond before they find out what they found?
Yeah, I think that they're going to create a problem. They're not going to be targeted or anything. There's no kind of solution that does that. But I think they're going to be challenged to find real remnants of a chemical attack attack of a agent of sarin or something. The chlorine gas, again, well dissipated, well gone by now. I saw some canisters on the internet that really could be illumination canisters. They're not necessarily canisters that could have used for a chemical weapon. It's hard to make a chemical weapon strike. In most cases, they've come out of helicopters or planes, air delivery. You don't want them rocket delivered because it endangers the crew. You've got to be a lot closer. So I think that's not going to matter if we're going to respond. These countries have got to decide what's in the best interest of all of them. How are they going to respond? If anything, they respond just for the use alone. They'll try to go after maybe some military assets that the Syrian government has, but they've got to be very careful about killing civilians or killing Russians in particular, or Iranians that are closely embedded with those Syrian forces.
Such a fragile situation. Mike Lyons, really appreciate your time. Thanks for coming by.
Thanks, Nick.